Hi everybody, I am a very lucky person because a long time ago my own mom, Irma Chait, wrote this special book to celebrate Pesach or Passover, and I'm going to read it to you now. So this is for children of all ages, including people like me who are a lot older than the average. Rodney's Bobba's Matzoh Balls, a Pesach tale by Irma Chait, with drawings by Olivia Zavadir. This book is dedicated to Robin and Jody, without whose presence this book might have been completed months earlier. They are my younger sisters. Here we go. The teacher stood before his class one sunny April day. His pupils listened carefully to what he had to say. At Pesach time, he told them, we recall a great event when all the Jews arose in haste and out of Egypt went. In Egypt, under Pharaoh's rule, they lived in slavery, till Moses led them out into the desert to be free. They crossed the Red Sea safely, despite many doubts and fears, into the Sinai desert, where they dwelt for 40 years. Each Pesach we remember them, the bitter tears they shed, their wanderings in the desert where they ate unleavened bread. In the desert they ate matzah, and at Pesach so do we. Since we tried to share the hardships, those Jews suffered to be free. While his teacher spoke of Pesach and walked up and down the aisle, Rodney thought about his Bobba, and he could not help but smile. Since Rodney's darling Bobba, there was nothing quite so good as to fill the family's stomachs with her own delicious food. Pesach was to Rodney's Bobba the best time in all the year. She would rush to shop at Millie's. After that, she'd disappear. Through the window of her kitchen, passers-by could look and see Bobba in her spotted apron, busy as a bumblebee. Mincing, peeling, chopping, tasting, she would work with great delight, beating, grating, mixing, basting through the day and through the night. Pletzlach, teglach, kichel, herring, filling every plate and dish, kneedlach, chicken soup and tzimmus, homemade grain, gefilte fish. Now and then she'd call for Rodney, who'd arrive, mouth open wide. Have a little taste of this, kind. She'd pop the spoon inside. When he'd had a chance to swallow, new, she'd ask, how is it then? Not bad, Bobba, Rod would answer. Better let me taste again. At the Pesach Seder table, when they read the Haggadah, Rodney asked the 4 big questions, starting with, Ma nishtana? And when they'd started eating, Bobba always had the right to ask the 5th and final question, how are the matzoh balls tonight? Always they were soft and fluffy, super duper, feather light. And at shul the next day, the women upstairs in the gallery loudly compared knedel sizes, quite unable to agree, until the rabbi raised his hand and viewed them with a frown. The knedels Rodney's Bobba makes are best, so please calm down. But one year was quite different from all the other years. A most amazing thing occurred. You'll not believe your ears. It happened on the Seder night, with all around the table. I'll tell you all about it now, as clearly as I'm able. Everyone had started eating. Eagerly they raised their spoons. Bobba dished out soup and knedels, which looked just like white balloons. Proudly, Bobba asked her question. How are the matzoh balls tonight? Funny little popping noises followed by the strangest sight. As the matzoh balls deflated with a sss before their eyes, just as if they'd struck a puncture, shrinking steadily in size. Never at a Pesach Seder sat a more astonished group, staring down as Bobba's knedels whizzed round madly in their soup. Rodney's sister started giggling. Cousin Norman shouted, gee, Auntie Faye took off her glasses. My eyes are playing tricks on me. Mother said, I think that Bobba must have changed her recipe. And then they all looked up and saw that Bobba had fainted on the floor. Father knelt and felt her pulse. Mother rushed for smelling salts. Rodney saw her eyelids flutter, bent down close and heard her mutter, matzoh balls. That's all she said. They laid her gently on a bed, and straightway they called the doc, who gave her medicine for the shock. In bed she lay, so pale and white, with Rod beside her through the night. Next morning, Mother brought in tea and placed it by the bed, together with the morning news whose headlines Rodney read. Gary Slammer says he may not win the championship today. Gary, that great golfing star, till today the best by far, is most concerned about his game. He says he cannot play the same, for these days, when he slams the ball, it does not travel far at all. And if he can't play 18 holes in 68, he'll take up bowls. Rod tiptoed out of Bobba's room, as quietly as a mouse. He took the dish of Matzoh balls and hurried from the house. He walked straight to the Grand Hotel and with a little stammer said, good morning, to the clerk. May I see Gary Slammer? With pleasure, sir, the clerk replied. He's in room 304. Just take the lift to number 3 and knock upon his door. Holding the dish of Matzoh balls, Rod followed that instruction, and when the room door opened, he began his introduction. My name is Rodney, sir, he said, and shook the champion's hand. I've heard you having trouble, and I've brought you a new brand of golf balls. If you use them, I'm prepared to guarantee you'll win the championship today. You'll play so brilliantly. All right, my lad, Gary replied. I'll give the balls a try, and if I play so well I win, we'll know the reason why. Rod packed the balls in Gary's bag, and with a little grin, he shook his hand and wished him luck. I'm confident you'll win. He rushed back home to Bobba's room to see how she was feeling. She lay there mumbling, Matzoh balls, and staring at the ceiling. Don't worry, Bobs, he whispered. His heart was very full. I promise you all will be well. And now I'm off to shul. In shul that day he prayed so hard and davened with such zest that Uncle Isaac stroked his beard and said, well, I'll be blessed. A rabbi in the family. That really will be grand. And when they'd sung Adon Olam, he shook his nephew's hand. That afternoon, Rod mooched around wanting to be alone. Until 5:25, they called him to the phone. Hello, hello, is that you, Rod? The voice of Gary Slammer. I have the most fantastic news. Rod's heart beat like a hammer. I played the best golf I ever played. Those golf balls were just great. I won the championship with ease. I scored a 58. Wow, shouted Rodney, what a score. My dad does 93. Please come round this evening to meet the family. When Gary came, Rod greeted him and led him right away to Bobba's bedside, where he told them what he'd done that day. And when he told them only half the story, they began to laugh so loudly, all came rushing in, and Rodney had to start again while Bobba proudly cried with bliss, my grandson is a genius. Well, Gary smiled from ear to ear, you're quite a girl yourself, my dear. And now, before I say goodbye, I'd like to order a supply of Matzoh balls. Next Pesach too. Please, Bobba, see what you can do. He kissed her fondly on the cheek and gave her grandson's nose a tweak. Now cheers to you, Rodney, my laddie. I wish I had you for a caddie. Since then, Rod gets a telegram each year when Pesach falls from Gary Slammer asking, how are Bobba's Matzoh balls? And at the Seder, Rodney waits to see if they will pop. But Bobba smiles because she knows they'll never be a flop.